Judging continues to be a problem in MMA. I asked fighters their opinion on some ways we can improve judging in the latest edition of MMA Pros Pick.
I like the idea of former fighters being judges, but there's always going to be a conflict of interest, man. This sport is too small. Everybody knows somebody or knows the camp somebody trains at. And that's going to be tough to not get feelings and lean towards certain guys. Maybe an actual, is there an actual course that these guys are being taught and prepared on? I think they should have some kind of testing system where it's mandatory, and then they, watch a fight and get approval from a staff to be put into the live fight.
Yeah, I think definitely older. God, it's hard to say adding older MMA fighters, because if their background's in wrestling and this guy gets a takedown and literally holds them, and he's getting put in a triangle, postures up, and doesn't land much. The guy in the back elbows him a couple times, and he's super active off his back. That wrestler's judge is probably gonna be like, well, but he took him down. I don't know. It's super hard it's hard to say. I think I really like the fact that I think the new rule is if the wrestler does take him down and they don't do anything, it's not really, it doesn't really count much. But for me, if I get taken down, I'm going to be super active off my back and make sure I win the round, even if it is off my back. But yeah, maybe open scoring would probably help a lot, because there is some of those fights that people are so evenly matched. It's a close fight, and it is hard to say. But yeah, maybe open scoring would help. I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to decide.
I think just having more, probably more judges, probably. Like different side of the ring, right? Just having more judges to see. I don't know. It's a hard job to do, man, judging. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm looking at fights like, oh, one guy won, but the other guy got a decision. You know what I mean? So it is a hard job to do, but I don't know the answer to make it better.
Oh man, to be honest, I don't know. You have a really good question, because in the last I don't know, maybe 3 events, the score looks really different between the judges. One judge saw one fight, but the other judge watched another different fight, and that's so weird. Maybe the open scores can motivate more the fighters to put more pressure in the fight and make more easy the decision of the judges. Man, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard because it's a human mistake, but at the same time, you put too much work in the fight, and some guy make the decision to give the victory to the other guy. It's weird. It's hard.
I'd have to know more what the process is in each commission in each state as to what they use to pick a judge. Once you know that process, then that's where you would start that question, I believe. See, so you're asking a good question that all of us want to know, and they hold our career in their hands, but nobody knows how they even pick judges. Like, how mind-blowing is that? Think about that. That's how much power the commission has over our career, that we have absolutely no knowledge, not even a toe in the water. And I don't know if they would care to share. They definitely don't have to share. So with all that being said, it's pretty mind-blowing, considering they hold our career in their hands.
I like the idea of like live scoring, what they're saying, show the scores. What's the worst that's going to happen if you show the scores? Like, what's wrong with that? Picture if they showed like poker without you being able to see like the player's hands. Like, the reason why you can't even watch that is the hands. It kind of adds to the I don't know what's going on. So I think that would be a cool way to do it. But I mean, and then really trying to get guys that maybe have been involved more in the sport, and I think you'll have more of that as the generations come. But some of these guys that just know more about what they're doing, and yeah, right now it seems to be we need to at least be better than where we're at right now.
I think open scoring could help. I think more judge education, like a standard like rule set, like you have to go here to be trained as a judge, not anywhere. You could talk to this guy and you're a judge. I think you have to be. I think you should be certified to like a certification course, and I think like your vision needs to be tested. You have to have good vision. Like you can't not be able to see. Obviously, you never know. And yeah, you got to make sure that there's no bias. You got to check these guys' backgrounds and make sure if there's a fighter fighting on the card, they don't have any kind of affiliation.
I think definitely former UFC fighter or MMA fighters, guys with experience. A lot of these judges out there, they don't have that experience, or they're coming from a boxing background, and it's two completely different sports. It's very inconsistent as of yet. And a lot of these MMA fighters who have retired, who who've been in the game, or guys that even I think do a lot of commentating would be amazing at it. Stick DC in there. Stick Dominick Cruz. Like a lot of these guys out there, to stick him in the judges' spots every now and then, rotate him in. I don't know, but they've been very inconsistent. You're seeing that a lot lately. I've had a few in the past. Either I win the fight, my opponent being aggressive, and I'm hitting them more than they're hitting me, but they give it to the other guy because they're the ones walking forward. But I'm the one scoring more, Or then sometimes it's the other way around. I win because I'm backing up, and I don't know. It's just very inconsistent, and you're seeing that a lot lately. And there's been a lot of close calls, guys. Fights that have been should have gone the other way because of the judging. It didn't. I think the MMA fighters still maybe having some experience, putting them in maybe some of the Contender Series fights to get them more experience to kind of see what their judging's like, and then stick them out there on the big cards. Maybe would be a cool way to go instead of just sticking them out there right off the bat. Maybe have them go through like a little training process. Put them out there with some of the Ultimate Contender fights and have them judge there. And if they do well, then move them up to the bigger cards. But I think the MMA guys with some experience is the way to go. That's me.
Yeah, for the easiest way would be, it's got to be someone with an understanding of the sport, right? If you're from boxing background, you don't have an understanding of the sport. So, number one, you're out. Like if we're trying to pick a jury here, then the boxing guy's out. If that's all you ever did was boxing. And the karate guy's out if that's all he did was karate. Like, we have these judges in here who are just from one discipline. It'd be silly for me to judge a basketball game or anything where that I don't have an understanding of. So it 100% needs to be a fighter who has fight experience, who has pro fights, who understands our sport. And the second thing, open scoring, I would be up for open scoring. I like that. But there is there's a gray area in fighting, right? Where it's like there's gray areas. So there's wiggle room at the end of every fight to say, especially if they're close, I'm leaning in this guy's favor, I'm leaning that guy's favor. But to be able to kind of combat that, the number one thing that isn't happening today that should be an MMA fighter who has experience fighting, judging a fight. You get a plumber to fix your plumbing. You get a roofer to fix the roof. Why are we getting boxing guys to judge a MMA fight? Silly.
I feel like judges have to have some knowledge about MMA. It can't be just a boxing judge coming over to just score MMA fight. They have to have the knowledge and experience in MMA. That's the only way to improve the scoring.
I truly believe that there is enough ex-MMA fighters to have MMA fighters be the judges. Ultimately, you can't, I don't know, it's so hard.
I agree. I'm on board with the MMA fighters.
You have to have at least a certain amount of fights to be able to judge, because those are the only people who truly understand, like, yeah, you're in this position. Yeah, you may be on bottom, or yeah, you may be on top, or it might look boring, or you could have spent like three minutes holding somebody in a triangle, but like they don't understand. Yeah, you were on your back, but you only almost submitted them. So no one really understands the full dynamics unless you're an actual fighter.
And we watched the Invicta card with the open scoring. I thought the open scoring was cool too.
That was cool too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about that. That's a good like good ideas, open scoring. That might be good. I think it's a little similar to jiu-jitsu, you see the how do you say, the scoreboard the whole time during the fight, so you can always see the points, see what they're giving you. So that might be interesting. I think maybe open scoring would be good.
It's hard. I've been playing around with several thoughts. Maybe do it the Japanese way, judging the fight as a whole. But on the other hand, I think it's easier to judge it round by round. But I like the thought of a scoring system where you can see the scores, open scoring. That's good. And also, I think now they're not using it too much, but I think that you shouldn't have 10-8 rounds, because it's just there's no good guidelines to when it is a 10-8. So I think that's something that shouldn't be there.
Maybe some ex-fighters can be judged, or I think if some judges are bad, they should get fired. But I see them all the time come back, or they don't stop. They let the fighter take too much punishment sometimes. They stop it too late or whatever. I think safety is more important, but also if some judges are bad, they should get fired. But they don't get fired. They're always the same guys coming back,
That's definitely good. Then also we have to have a little bit of a selection process in who is judging. People that have never participated in those sports, I don't think should be able to judge. There's plenty of people out there that do these martial arts and need money. They could easily be doing the fighters, the retired fighters, the jiu-jitsu practitioners, even wrestlers, boxers. There are so many guys there that could be judging. And also judges need to be held accountable for their actions, because right now you've got on one side you have an important fight where crazy amount of money is at stake, millions, sometimes 10, 20, 30 million at stake, and the guys, of course, records, everything. And on the other side you have a judge that gets paid very little, which makes it easy to bribe them because they don't get paid little, and doesn't have to answer for their actions. Like, he can have the most ridiculous score and will just go home and no questions will be asked. So that leaves a lot of room for, number one, bribe, like I said. Number two, for if a judge just is biased, he's maybe affiliated with somebody or knows somebody, or just doesn't like the fighter personally, he can also do it, because he knows nothing is going to be done to them. He knows nobody's going to ask them no questions. No one is going to know, who they are. No one is going to ask them why they did it. Nobody's going to have to, put them in front of TV and say, look, now explain to me how you judged that round. And I feel that when the scores are extreme, like really ridiculous, that should be done. A judge should sit in front of the TV and rewatch that round and tell us, explain to us what was going through his mind when he was scoring that round. Because why should his judgment affect my life? You know what I mean? If he gives me a loss, that's it. That stays on my record forever. I will die and that shredded record will still stand there. So that decision of his is still going to be there forever. And it affects you on so many levels. You don't win a fight, so your pay doesn't go up. Sponsors are pulling out. And this is already a tough business. So, judges need to be held accountable for their actions.
But here's the thing. They're trying things. They've been trying things for years. I believe Invicta just had the first where you could see it, the scorecard between rounds, so you actually know where you are and how you sit. And I was in Texas. Texas was the worst scoring I've seen in the United States. It was Brazil. It was the level of Brazil. Like, you go there, it's like, oh, this is going to be awful. That was Texas. And as far as the judging goes, besides the fact, in Texas, for example, there was a dude, he was supposed to be judging a very close back and forth fight. He was actually on his phone. So, yeah, that was absolutely ridiculous. That fight, I don't even know what you would do about that. But the judges, for the most part, seem to be old-time, like, boxing coaches, or not coaches, but they've scored boxing fights, they've scored random things. They don't have a very good comprehension of the MMA game, or at least they don't care to. I do think we need a new set of coaches, people that are very familiar with it. And go from there. I think the what Invicta's doing, where they're actually showing you between rounds, why not? Every other sport does it. You can actually see where you sit. I think it's a good idea.
That's going to just take some minds to really sit down and brainstorm a lot, and it's going to take a group. I don't think one person will have, there'll never be a perfect answer with our sport, I think, but even if the scoring stayed the same, if there were just people who had more concrete ideas of what's, what we score what as, or like vaguely what counts more. I mean, it's always going to be a little subjective, but maybe even just having judges that are more experienced, people who have had cage time, or, I mean, even those things, it's always going to be a little bit biased with, if you were a predominant wrestler and then now you're judging, you'll probably favor the wrestler. If you were a striker, then you're probably going to favor the striker. So there's never going to be a perfect answer, but I think more experienced judges and just being more, having more open conversations about what they see, what they're seeing and why they're picking what they pick will help fighters train for that as well. Like, right now it's like, oh, if you get a takedown at the end of the round and don't do anything with it, is that worth more, or would it have been better for you to try to keep striking, or I don't know.
I definitely agree that probably past MMA fighters should be the judges, because they're the experienced ones. They know what they're talking about. And I know Joe Rogan has a whole bit about how a judge didn't even know what, I think it was a Khama Worthy, he didn't know what a submission was. And it's like, to have judges that are that inexperienced in the sport is just kind of ridiculous.
Man, I don't have an answer for that, because our sport is so unique compared to other sports. I don't have an answer. The only thing that I could say that I think might help is I think we need 2 more judges. So there's 5 judges total. If you can convince 3 out of 5 judges that you won the fight, I think that's fair instead of 2 out of 3. And then I think open scoring is, like just knowing if you're down or not, I think is real big too. And I think that'll keep the judges more honest. If you know that you don't, like, you really think that one judge that gave Giles the first round knew that his scorecard was going to be on the big screen right after a round like that, like he would do that? There's no way. And then they would have asked him to leave immediately, but that goes to another point. I think that everybody in MMA is held accountable for their actions. The fighters, the promoters, the referees, the cage side assistants. The only people that are not held accountable for their actions are the judges. And the judges have one of the most important jobs. Like, these are people's lives we're talking about. Like, James's purse got cut in half, like, that's incredible. And then go to the main event. Dominick Reyes lost out on beating the best fighter of all time, Jon Jones, because one judge, decided that he lost 4 out of 5. That it's ridiculous, and nobody is held accountable for it. And it's honestly crazy, if you ask me.
They're going to make judges accountable. Even on split decisions, they should question the judge that scored it the other way and ask them why they saw it that way. They can't give a legitimate reason. They should be fired. How was Joe Rogan going off of that judge for not even watching the fight?
I feel like they're not going to make any improvements because it benefits the promoter for a lot of the judgments to be arbitrary. They enjoy it when there's mix-ups and controversy and whatever. It plays more to their favor. I think what we need is more criteria. We need better criteria. Just like if you play a board game with your kids for the first time, you can read the instructions and you know exactly how to play, who wins, how to get points, how to take points away. It's easy to understand. Anybody can do it. You should have written criteria about how to score a fight down so that anybody can come off the street, read the criteria, know the criteria, and score the fight correctly. I don't think it should be a fighter necessarily, or even anybody who's that much experience that has to do it. I think the secret lies within the criteria.
Yeah, I definitely think there needs to be some type of curriculum for judging, because I feel like, we've seen it time and time again where some of the judges have been caught on their phones, and then it's like you could be dominating a fight and then they just, the crowd influences the judges I feel like you definitely get that hometown advantage. But then it's like, okay, people steal the round. The last 30 seconds, there's a big flurry, and you take them down. But what happened the 4.5 minutes before that, you know, when the person was dominating the fight, and that's all they remember, so they give it a 10-9. I do agree with Max. Like, that would be awesome to have live, you know, scorecards. So after the first round, you can look and see, okay, 10-9, I lost that round. I think it would be much more exciting, too, because if I'm down 2 rounds to 1, I'm coming out and either I'm swinging for the fences trying to finish that fight, or I might get caught doing it. But you still have to be, you know, you still have to be smart about it. And people were saying, oh, we're gonna have boring fights because someone's up, you know, 2-0. They're gonna just kind of stall out. That's not gonna be the case. If I'm down 2-0, I'm gonna track you down and give you everything I have. So I would like that. It might make it a little more exciting. And also, if the judges put the scorecards up there, you would get the fans' reaction. You know, if they're booing, if you won that round and then they gave it to the other person 10-9 and the fans are booing, it's like, I don't know, it might be kind of fun too. But yeah, I think something needs to change. But you can't have, because a lot of them are boxing judges. This is not boxing, so they're just scoring the jabs, they're scoring punches. What about the leg kicks, the takedowns? Like, you know, you can sit there and get jabbed, and yeah, that can win a fight. It's super effective, but there needs to be MMA judges, not boxing judges.
I think MMA fighters as judges would be huge. Yeah, I think that people that are skilled and understand both aspects of both aspects, the boxing as well as the kickboxing and the grappling and the ground. Because, you know, I think that I think that would help it.
I definitely think that open scoring would be great. I think that'd be great. I mean, like they do it in Glory Kickboxing. You know, you're down 2 rounds, it's time to fucking get up. If you're the guy who knows you're up 2 rounds and you want to slack off, that means it's going to be the other guy's job to push hard to get the win. I think it'll push the fights more. It'll make people work harder. I like the open scoring. As for the fighters being judges, no, we're fucking stupid. No. Like, could we have each fighter has their own understanding of what fights. Like, 2 fighters can watch a fight and one be like, this is good, this is stupid, he's winning, right? Like, we each have a different perspective because it all depends on what type of fighter you're dealing with. Like, now maybe retired fighters, like years after they're done, like 10 years after you've done fighting and stuff. But like, if not, like, I mean, like, I like people that just. Their job is to be MMA judges, not boxing judges, but they need people that like actually go to school to be MMA judges or something like that. I don't know if there's an MMA judge school or something.
I know Invicta actually tried the open scoring. I don't necessarily know if I love that, just because as a fighter, if you know we're going into round 3 and I know I'm up 2 rounds, maybe not even consciously but subconsciously, I would take it kind of easy that round because I know I already have it in the bag, and I think the element of surprise is what makes some of the best fights. So that I don't really love that, but I don't know. I think bringing on fighters or people who have fought, who know more about the sport, I think that would make a huge difference. Or, you know, just people who have been, not necessarily fighters, but been around it forever. I think that would make a huge difference in how everything's going.
You just have to go with the way it is. I think the only thing that can help judging, and I think will actually help change the way the fights are going as well, is have open scoring, where after each round we can see what the judges put down, and kind of have an understanding of how the fight's going. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is someone will clearly lose the fight by 2 rounds, and in the 3rd round they'll come back and they'll just beat the crap out of their opponent. And if you look at that fight as a whole, it's like, yeah, so-and-so definitely won that fight, but when he breaks down round by round, it was a loss for that individual. So I think having open scoring is the only way to really improve that judging method.
I think that the open scoring idea is interesting because you can know how the judges are seeing your fight and try to react accordingly. Of course, it won't work as much if you're clearly winning the fight and the guy is scoring against you, because what else do you have to do? And I think we should have the option to appeal the decisions after they're given, because of sometimes, as you said, we have some controversial results that everyone saw the guy win except the judges. but we're not able to go in there and say, hey, I won the fight because of this and this and this, and you got the wrong result, let's correct that. We don't have that option. So I think that would be the major factor to have the option, the freedom to move forward and have those incorrect results corrected.
I'm not sure. Like, I think open judging maybe would work. You know, like if the end result is, you know, like when they put the stats out there between each round and after each round, and then they go by that, you know, that would definitely help. But if they're gonna, you know, because I heard that they were gonna try and do some open judge, like where they would show the stats between every fight. So if they did that, and then the outcome was the result of the scoring, and not like, oh, this is the scoring, but this is who won. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think maybe that will help. So maybe.
I think adding more is for sure. I say do 5. It can't hurt to add another 2. I think adding judge two extra judges on top of giving a little bit more stricter what's the word holding them to a higher standard. Like when it comes to like, do they have any martial arts backgrounds? What fights have they judged before? If they're, I don't think you should just be going right to the UFC. I feel like you should start out with your regional shows, and then once you made a name for yourself there when it comes to judging, then you can get promoted to the UFC. So again, I five judge idea.
I think live scoring would be good, but I mean, it's kind of, I think, I don't know. I feel like, so this is kind of crazy to me, because sometimes when you have 2 fighters out there, like in my case, when I was fighting Carla, they got us mixed up, and they had her winning the first round, and clearly I won that first round, probably a 10-8. So I was like, that's kind of strange that like they had her win, you know, like that kind of mistake could happen during a fight. Like, what if the next 2 rounds were super close, and, you know, I ended up losing the round because they gave the first round to her or whatever? That'd be crazy, right? So I think, I don't know, I think maybe like I don't know, how do they do it now? Like they do it by the corners, right? Like the red and the blue. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if like maybe making the pants or something like that red and blue will help as well. I don't know, but I feel like that, like, having that mix up is just like too crazy, and it might happen more than we think. I don't know, but right. But then also, I think the live is really cool. Like, I think it's good to have that, because then the fighter knows, like, hey, I won that round, or hey, I lost that round. And I think fighters should know that. And in general, like, I feel like they should know, like, hey, I'm down, or hey, I'm up, especially in a close fight, because if anything, it might make the fights more entertaining. Like, you know, we might have 2 fighters that won one round, or won one round and won the other, like, go super hard in the 3rd round, and it's just like, or we'll have more finishes in the 3rd round. You know, you just never know. And I feel like we should definitely be able to know that. So I think live scoring is a good thing. Yeah.
They could probably have judges that have had a background in the sport, so they knew fully what they were watching. You know, that's a big one. I don't think there has to be more. I mean, I guess more, maybe the probability of them getting it right is more likely, I suppose, permitted everybody knows what they're talking about. But I think the issue is that when there's a fight that's such a bad decision, how does everybody in the world know who won except the 3 assholes whose job it is to know who won? So just get people who have a background in the sport. They don't have to have been a famous fighter or something, but they have to at least know what the fuck's going on, you know?